Hello, everyone. So I'm Heather Reeves from Heather Reeves Yoga, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Britt Franks from Fit with Britt. And Britt is someone that has inspired me for a very long time. And I wanted to introduce you to her and help her or share some of her knowledge and her know-how. And yeah, so the very first thing, actually, Britt is an amazing athlete and she personal trains people, but she's recently started her Fit Food, and it's deliciously nutritious and she's made it easy for us to eat healthy. So, Britt, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I've never had quite that, I don't know, pleasant of an introduction, Heather. I'm gonna be a little teary.
Aw.
That was very kind of you. So, my name's Britt Franks. I currently live in Durham. I've lived there now for 19 years. I actually married my grade 8 teacher, the little secret. I could write a book. His name is Jeremy. And we recently just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary. And we have 3 kids, Lexi, Addie, and Jake. I want to say that most of my time is spent between arenas, ball diamonds, dance studios, much like, many other busy parents. My day-to-day life is really no different. I love anything related to fitness. I think that's probably fairly well known, or health and wellness as a whole. And I absolutely hate lipstick. It ends up on my teeth.
I love that.
That's kind of my scoop.
Alrighty. So something, and I didn't give you this question, but something that you said to me once was, I want to create a life that I don't need a holiday from. And I often think when life gets too busy, and both of us have just returned from a little bit of a holiday, mine longer than yours, but it just got me thinking, because you get back into the swing of things, you get back into routine, and sometimes that can feel overwhelming. And yeah, so when you said that to me, I'm like, yeah, so obviously we need to prioritize things. And I think a big thing is also creating boundaries. So do you have any tips for, you're a busy mom with 3 very busy children and you're running a business, and how do you stay sane?
So first off, Heather, you have like a brutally good memory. I remember the day I said that. I'd forgotten about it, but I remember it now. And oh my goodness. So that's a cool question. I honestly feel like I am getting closer to that. I would say between running my business, and I do work for a financial planner part-time, who I'm very blessed to work for actually, and is probably one of the most amazing people in the world as well. He's a very understanding boss. I have been able to create, I guess, the flexibility I need in my life to be there for my kids, but then to also be able to be there for my clients as well. So balance is a big thing. And I do feel like I am getting very, very close to achieving, I guess, kind of that optimization. I'm not there yet. It is definitely a constant practice, but I'm getting closer. And I had another thought there, Heather, and it's left me. I want to say too, actually, just to touch on that. I'm very passionate, much are you, Heather, about what you do. So, a lot of my time spent maybe planning for classes or clients, or, my coaching sessions with clients, I totally, totally enjoy, I'll call it work, but it doesn't necessarily feel like work for me. My time on Zoom when I'm teaching or with my clients, it's almost one part of my day where I feel like time almost stands still. Like you kind of just get lost in it all and totally lose track of maybe like yourself, like start and end time. I'm forever saying to my classes, oh, great, I've kept you overtime again. Like, I hope you don't have anything else to do today. I love what I do that much that so much of, again, I guess what I'll call work it doesn't feel like work today. Time does stand still when I'm teaching. It really does. And I'm just super grateful, blessed maybe to have been able to, I guess, create a living off something that I love so much. Because I know that that's not something, many people
Yeah,
have been
it's true.
able to access, maybe figure out that sort of thing. And I guess I said to someone too, actually, Heather, maybe a little while ago, and it was in an actual seminar session that, fit with Brit. Like my name rhymes with fit. So I don't know. I feel like the universe maybe, knew what was out there for me long before I even got involved. It just knew. It just knew. So I'll kind of throw it out to the universe.
Awesome.
I don't know if that answers your question, Heather. I guess maybe kind of sort of in a roundabout way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like obviously there's that working on or working with people, and that is your passion. But as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, we also know that there's also time that we need to designate to the bookkeeping, to the finances, to the bookkeeping, the promoting, the social media. And so how do you schedule that? Well, obviously, you're providing a service that you love to provide, but I think for some entrepreneurs, the bookkeeping, the behind the scenes, it's a big part of it. And how do you juggle that?
To be honest, Heather, my social media is just a constant it's a constant effort. It is not something that I feel very fluid with. I do at times have a way with words, but sometimes, when you have 10 minutes, you think, shoot, I need to be posting right now. Like the words don't want to come out.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of my planning for that aspect. Usually, first thing in the morning, I'm fresh, my house is quiet. I will jot down a few notes on paper as I'm sipping my coffee, like, oh, I could touch on that, or I could touch on this. Sometimes just having that bullet point there to build on at 9:40 when there's 10 minutes in the morning to do a little post, that's helpful. However, I still feel like that's something that is not a strong suit of mine. I am not a tech savvy girl, and I definitely have a love-hate relationship with it. It obviously is very beneficial. That's
Yeah.
just fact, but it's not something that I feel I do it, but I'm not super smooth with it. The bookkeeping, I must admit, is like November 28th. Oh, great. Here's the receipt. Now what? And it's like one of those things then when you don't, when you have to do it, you just sit down and tackle it.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I can be pretty good then come the new year, even to be like, oh, great, New Year's resolution. I'm going to stay on top of this. And I'm like good till, March break. And then March break hits. And then I'm looking at it again, when the weather gets cold again and the days are dark, going, well, oh, yeah, there's always 2024.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So that's
So,
my little insight. I'm in no way, yeah, that part of what I do is like the last thing. The clients, meeting their demands, their schedules, meeting my kids' schedules. That comes first. The other stuff gets done. It's not cute, but it does get done.
but yeah, it's one of those things that we have to do. So, can you tell me how your love of fitness, weight training, and running evolved?
Yeah, for sure. My love with kind of wellness as a whole started with running. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was 13 and I had always been a fairly active, athletic girl with like primarily focused on figure skating, but dabbled with some other things as well. So by the time I hit 13, I had developed a fairly athletic shape and what I would have considered undersized at the
Hmm.
time. And everybody was wearing, oh, cute little silver jeans and all this kind of stuff. I remember trying on, I don't know, I'm sure bell bottoms were the thing then. I feel like I'm dating myself, but I'm sure they were like flared jeans at the time. And I had like a relatively small waist, but I had thick thighs. And I could not pull these jeans up past my knees to save my soul. So I decided the very next day I was going to start running. I was going to run my way to Skinny Leg, was my plan. It was free. I wasn't going to be dependent on my mother to give me yet another ride somewhere. I could just walk out my front door and do it. So I did. And I was probably 3 days into running, and it was like no longer about the jeans or the thunder thighs or the skinny legs. In fact, I'm 36. I'll be honest, I'm 36. And my thighs are the same size now as they were then, and they always have been. It, it never happened. But I haven't stopped running. So running for me has been, how long is that? Is that 23 years, Heather? I'm not
Yeah.
my mind isn't doing math right now. And I'm still at it. So that's been one constant in my life, really, that I am super, super blessed and grateful to be able to do. Running for me, it's not about biceps, it's not about abs. It's my time for me. And when I'm out in the middle of concession too, it's almost there's a point out there where you feel untouchable. No one can access me for 60 minutes while I'm out there doing my thing. And to me, that's become pretty, pretty special. And so
Nice.
then I guess to build on that, Heather, so I guess my true love of wellness did start there with running. So I was in grade 8 at 13 when I started doing that. Then I guess following year, starting high school, I had an opportunity to try out for the cross country team. So I thought, well, yeah, totally, like count me in. And I guess as it was decided, I turned out to be kind of fast. I had practiced enough, I guess, and logged enough miles. I always ran with myself. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what a time should be for a certain distance or anything like that. And anyway, relatively speaking, compared to other females my age, I had become a fairly sound runner. So I ended up getting recruited actually by a team out of Guelph. And I trained with them for a good part of high school. But within that, I learned a lot that obviously you can only, do some sort of repetitive movement so many times before you're going to end up injured because you're using the same darn muscles in the same darn way, time and time and time again. So of course our coach was huge on strength training to complement, injury prevention and even just to make you a faster, more efficient runner. So that was my real introduction to strength training. Not the strength training that comes to mind when we think of like gym and barbells and dumbbells. This was very, very specific to running technique and form itself. But of course, I had already kind of divulged myself in this world so much that my love of resistance bands turned into my love of, dumbbells, barbells, squat rack, and all of the other things.
Yeah.
And then two, as we know, what you put in your body is obviously crucial. So, I really started to notice that my running and my training, the outcome was fairly dependent on what I was putting in my body. And when you have a certain expectation for yourself or an expectation for time or distance, the body doesn't lie to you. You soon know whether or not you drank enough, ate the right things. And then that's where, obviously my world of nutrition, balancing your energy expenditure, all that kind of stuff started to surface.
Awesome. So, as a mom and a busy entrepreneur, businesswoman, how do you plan your day so that your health and well-being stay a priority? Because I think there's a lot of people, and when life gets busy, it seems like our personal health care can go out the window because there's all the other stuff.
For
So
sure.
what sort of tips or hacks, would you like to share with people?
This is a good question, Heather. It is. It truly is. And I'm going to share something publicly that's probably going to make me sound like, I don't know, a really awful person, but I'm just going to be downright okay with it. I do not experience mom guilt.
Good for you.
Don't. So I don't know if I should be lucky, like if I should be thankful for that. I can honestly say to this day, and my oldest daughter's almost 16, that I don't experience guilt for looking after myself. Like I just don't, and I never have. And so too, and I run into this just because I coach, obviously, or work with people that are moms and busy moms and stuff as well.
Mhm.
So sometimes I honestly have a hard time, you know, telling someone not to feel guilty. Because like I actually don't feel guilty. So
But do you think, um, because I experience this a lot working with clients in massage, but also people like, oh, I can't take the time. And it was brought to my attention. It's how do you value your own self-worth? So if you feel you're worthy, then you don't feel guilty about it, right? Like you're not looking for someone else's approval or attention. You are confident within yourself and you value you. Would you say that? I think you have a healthy, yeah, a healthy
I
attitude, a healthy.
that's probably very true, Heather. I like the way you just again your wording and phrasing on things always like has me, in awe. And I guess that's probably very true. I guess I just know that when I get up, have my morning coffee quietly to myself and move my body a bit, it just makes me a better me. And when I'm a better me, I can show up better for everybody else that I'm fortunate enough to have in my life. And that so to me that's my motivation. And that being said, like I try not to let my goals, my regime, my kind of fitness plans, my training time largely interfere with my kid's life, my kid's day. And that's something I've always, kind of vowed that I would do. So most of my me time happens when it's still dark out in the morning, even in the summertime. So yeah, a lot of what I do happens before my house, family, whomever is up and at it. Again, that's a choice I make though, because I know for a fact that I do not feel like me when I don't move my body. Now, I'm also not a saint, and yes, I do sleep in until the sun rises sometimes. But on those days too, my kids are now older and they almost just know not to talk to me before I've had half a cup of coffee. Like you just don't do that. It's just that.
Yeah.
I have no problem telling them that, you know what, like right now I'm taking 40 minutes. I'm going downstairs unless you're bleeding or barfing, I'll hear for you in, I'll hear from you in 40 minutes.
Perfect.
And they've just kind of, it just has worked. I don't know. And again, I think they must sense in some way too that I am just happier. I'm more positive. I'm more energetic with them whenever I've had my coffee, my morning tea, and my workout.
Perfect. So do you want to tell us what time you get up?
Usually 4:45.
Wow. And so then you have your coffee at 5, and your workout. And then what
And
about those days that you're feeling tired? How do you motivate yourself to get out of bed?
I don't really ever give myself the opportunity to negotiate with myself. I'm, and you can laugh at this all you want, Heather, because gosh, you know me well enough anyways. I am rigid, like just rigid. I am disciplined, and I do the boring thing. I just do. Sweating it out at 5:30 in the morning in yesterday's underwear. No, it's not fun. No, it's not glamorous. Like it's not pretty. That's why I don't post myself on social media. No, it's like let's be honest. Like it's boring. It's boring. It's like monotone. It's kind of the sameness, but it works. It's functional. It just works.
And I think it works because it's become a habit. And I've read a lot about habits, and lots of times too, I think sometimes when we give ourselves permission to negotiate, just like at the end of the day to say, oh, I'm going to do my run or whatever then. And it's really easy for all of us to talk ourselves out of doing something. So yeah, like this morning I was like, oh, like I know at 6:15 on Wednesday mornings, I teach a class. And it's like, no, I just have my clothes set out and I don't. Whereas there's days that if I'm going to work out for myself, I'll go, oh, and it's like, no, when my clothes are out, have my sip of coffee, get going. And I think too, and we talked about it when we read Body Thrive, getting rid of that decision fatigue, right? Pre-plan it so that we do it. This is how your day rolls, right? So then you're not going, like, or people that say, well, the weather was kind of crappy. Well, most of the time, and you probably experience this, no, I go for my run at this time. I have my gear on. And, unless it's a torrential downpour, you'll do something, an alternative. But lots of times you get out there and it's not even bad, right?
Not so bad. No, exactly. And the other thing too, Heather, that I guess just spent a lot of time, I don't know, in contemplation over more so than anything. We have become very accustomed to like instant gratification, right? We want to feel good now. We want to do what feels really great in the moment. And yeah, like staying in bed under the covers for sure. Like it feels freaking awesome. But an hour from now or an hour and a half from that point, then honestly, you're going to feel pretty lousy. You're not going to be as energetic. You're going to be mad at yourself because you've now, you've bailed on yourself. We don't bail on our friends. We don't bail on our employers. We don't bail on commitments with parents, but we're totally willing to bail on ourselves. And I guess to me, that's just never really made a lot of sense. And I'm willing to, I guess, almost delay gratification for what I know I really want most. So not what I want then, not what I want now, but for what I know I really, really want. I don't know if that's like a conditioning. I don't know. I guess that is discipline, right? And again, it's a practice that does take, I think, like conscious thought in the beginning until, as you said, Heather, it does become not always habitual, but almost always.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful.
I think that's helpful. And I think too, when our children see us doing it, we've made ourselves a priority. And then it's not questioned. Well, why are you doing that? Like you said, they know you're happier, you have more energy, and that's your time. And I think that's much healthier. And you do that in the morning, right? Like before, you're not trying to juggle that with what the kids have going on. I know when we were at a lot of hockey, I used to take my runners with me or whatever gear. And while the kids were warming up before their game, that's when, I went out for my walk. I did lots of laps around the Howick Arena.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Heather, and yeah, that's just it, right? It's like I've certainly found something that's worked, for myself. I want to say my life, but our life really, like as I don't know, I consider myself the CEO of a nut house some days, but it kind of works for us, and it sounds like there in your instance or through that sort of season of life you were in, you found something that worked for you. So just because I'm sitting here and saying, yeah, like I do work out at 5:30 in the morning, that's not, like, oh, yay, go me kind of a thing. Like I'm genuinely sharing that to be helpful, but ultimately too, that time maybe is not your time. It could be something, like you said, Heather, whereas I know I have to be at the arena at such and such a time, but I'm not needed for the first hour. So that's when I'm going to scoot out and do my thing.
Yeah.
But again, then I think just being prepared. Obviously, you needed your workout gear, you needed your shoes, and when you got there, it wasn't like, maybe I'll just find the local Tim Hortons and grab a coffee. You did.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's that planning. So, if you want to tell us about a typical day, a week, a month, you've shared your workout time, but in planning, prepping for seeing your clients, but also with your fit food, how do you make that work with kids and their commitments?
To be honest, Heather, with the addition to fit food, to my whole kind of fit with Brit umbrella, I don't call it an umbrella. That's been something that I'm not going to say it works seamlessly. That would be lying. but it works fairly well because I can be at my own place, you know, and I, can keep very close tabs on my orders and that. I have generally a pretty good idea as to, my batch prep scenario. And that's what it is. Ultimately, it's batch prepping. I am not a chef. I wish I was, actually. I would be so interested in my next life to, go to culinary school or something. I am not a chef. That's not it. But I've just I've ended up developing this knack with tweaking recipes that, not that I would call them comfort food, but are, kind of borderline palatable, and sort of tweaking them to make them a little bit more healthy. That's not a chef. That's just kind of using my kitchen as a playground in a sense. And I have made a lot of messes, and I have had a lot of like recipe like no-nos over the course of time, but eventually have arrived at a few things that, turn out not too bad. So I'm able to keep fairly close tabs on, again, just the volume of orders I have, what, the batch cook scenario is going to look like. And then I'm able to kind of put at that in between my kids' stuff. And because I am at home, I can like kind of wrap something up. I can scoot to a ball game. I can come back and I can kind of pick up where I left off. So it does take a certain level of organization, definitely. But at the same time, I've been doing it now for a couple years, so I've become a lot better at gauging how long certain things take, and I'm able to almost chunk my time a little bit more effectively. In the beginning, it was a mess, but it has become a little bit more streamlined, and I feel like I give myself fair deadlines. So basically, right now, everybody would have to have their orders in by end of day today for me to deliver on Friday. So I know that I have that much time, and by the end of today, I know exactly what my situation is.
Perfect.
And then again, it's my choice if tomorrow night Jay says horseback riding. If I am behind or scrambling or something like that, then I can either I can go to horseback riding and continue to scramble until midnight tomorrow night, or B, that might be the time where I say, whoa, Jer, like I've got to work for a bit. Do you mind taking Jace? And if you can have kids out of the house for an hour, I could actually get a lot done. And I'm blessed too. I do have a helpful husband, in a situation like that. And not that I make that, I don't do that often, but if I needed to, I certainly can. And I have. Jer knows I don't ask for help unless I'm desperate. And so he's pretty good to step in and give me a hand. So at the end of the day, I actually have a fair bit of flexibility with that, and it does give me options. Yeah, just provided I'm organized with keeping tabs on my orders.
Perfect. And in your busy household, are your children active participants in the daily chores and meal prep?
Yes, they are. They're very much so. To the point that I'll share a funny story. I got to do a run with kids. I feel like it was maybe for high school track and field. I think that's what it was. Doesn't matter anyway. Towards the end of last school year. So this would be my oldest daughter, Lexi, who's grade 10. I got to take a carload of kiddos to, I want to say Cambridge for a track meet. Anyway, so we're like vibing and cruising to Luke Bryan and all the fun things. And the girls, I think afterwards, must have said something to Lexi that, oh, like your mom, God bless these girls, they were cute, but oh, your mom's like, she's fun. You've like a really cool mom. You've a nice mom. And Lex is like, oh my God, she fooled you. So yeah, like I'm like mean, Heather, and even my mom will say that I am like mean to my kids. They do help. I am not running them all over house creation if they are not willing to do age appropriate chores around our house. It's just a non-negotiable. They are expected to be positive contributions as part of a busy house. Now, one thing I will say as far as the food prep goes, they were the kids that were like sitting on my kitchen counter in their jammies, stirring pots and making giant messes when they were really little. I cursed the mess and the extended length of time it took to put dinner on the table. But in the end, I think what really I learned from that is if kids are invested in the process,
Mhm.
kind of have a say in what's being prepared, once they feel invested and committed and almost proud that they've helped with something, they'll eat it.
Yeah.
So as much as sometimes I'm biting my tongue going, oh my God, this kitchen is a mess and dinner could have been on the table 20 minutes ago, I'm I'm thankful now that I persevered through that phase because I do have kids that can cook and I do have kids that almost tidy up without being pestered. Almost. But I do touch wood. Like I am so thankful. I have kids that eat really weird food.
That's awesome. And I think, you exactly when they're invested in it and they have an interest in it, right? And they learn, this tastes good, this doesn't taste good, or, I like it made this way. And I think, you are giving them tools, life tools, right? And
The other thing too, Heather, and this maybe goes back to me being me, is I had said right from day one, and we still joke about this around our kitchen table, that I will tell them this is not a 5-star restaurant. I do not take individual orders. I don't go around and be like, oh, so would you like the chicken Alfredo or like the vegan tofu parm? It's like, this is dinner. You're going to A, eat the dinner and be satisfied, or B, you're going to go to bed and you're going to lay there with your belly rumbling. And the
yeah,
choice is yours. I'm not fixing this, making it better, worse, different. You have a choice. I would say that all of my kids went to bed hungry twice when they were like this big and have never went to bed hungry again. It
that's
felt awful.
awesome.
Like I'm not proud of that. It felt horrible at the time, but I don't know, maybe it's one of those things again where it's not nice, but it's just functional. It was just effective. It worked. Like
Perfect.
we cry worse than they do, but
Yeah, we always feel worse than they,
yes.
yes, when we have to discipline them or yeah, it's hard, but in the long run, it's a whole lot easier. So, can you tell us a little bit about a personal training session with you and how people can work with you?
For sure. So to touch base with me really, all of my contact information is on my website or again through God bless social media. You can certainly find me there too, and I will get back to you. As far as the personal training side of things, everything I'm doing right now is online. So I'm not doing any in person. Uh Again, that truly comes down to COVID. No other, I never with any foresight would have perceived my business going that direction. It just sort of took that shape and it continued to flow that way. So it's almost one of those, if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing.
Yep.
So I know online isn't for everybody, and that's something that I will, if that's I guess, a scare or something that someone's apprehensive about, I do offer a free trial to see if it's
Hmm.
something that, you feel like we could work with, even just setting up, like, where do I put my camera? Is this too close? Like, can you see me? We work
Yeah.
out all of those sorts of things at that time. So yes, personal training is all online. I'm doing 45-minute sessions online right now just because I find online is maybe just more efficient in a sense. There's not the same kind of turnaround time. Like we're just kind of moving and grooving and we're moving and grooving and that's it. So 45 minutes I've found to be pretty effective. I always, if I'm onboarding someone new, we always do either a Zoom chat or a phone call ahead of time, just so that we're, obviously on the same page. I want to know, have you had previous injuries? Do you, experience pain? What, in your mind, what do you want to get out of your time with me? Because ultimately I could have all the ideas in the world, but if it doesn't align with what my client is wanting, then it just doesn't make sense. So I do consider my sessions to be pretty tailored based on, the individual that I'm working with. And I do pride myself on trying to take, as much of that into consideration as I can, and then still be effective with, my exercise suggestions, what I'm offering, that sort of a thing. I know two people people sometimes, I've heard this many times, they're afraid of me, and I'm not scary.
No,
But
you're not. No.
scare people, but I have legitimately heard that so many times. I don't, yeah, no, I'm not Jillian Michaels. I'm not scary. 5 minutes in, we're working and laughing and sweating, and it's usually all pretty cool. I don't know. I try and make fitness fun.
Yeah.
I'll
And
say that.
I would very much agree with that. And you're not scary at all.
Okay. Thank you, Heather.
So Fit with Brit's not only movement, but you with your fit food, can you tell us a little bit more about your fit food and vegetarian, vegan? How would you describe your food offerings?
Sure. Okay. So I want to say that the food offerings with Fit Food are plant forward or plant centric. I'm not I'm not one to get caught up in like a label. Like
Yeah,
I'm not vegan. Like I can't say that. I had fed on a salad last night. So I'm not truly vegan. Do I eat meat? Once every 2 years, maybe. So then, truthfully, I'm not really a vegetarian either. So even myself, like I'm not one to get hung up on labels. I think plants are definitely probably something that is widely underconsumed and should be, you know, the focus of the plate, not the afterthought.
for
So
sure.
that's more my focus with fit food. So is there meat in any of like my salad jars or soups? No, there's not. Is everything vegan? No. I do use honey in certain things from time to time. And again, you will find feta in the odd salad. And I do use a high quality whey protein in a lot of my little treats like power balls and bars. I've played around with vegan protein powder in those sorts of things many times, and I've just been never entirely happy with the consistency. It like the texture of the end result just isn't quite as nice. So we'll go with plant plant forward, plant centric.
I like that. I like that
Okay.
because I think for some people, the whole vegetarian, vegan, it's confusing and it can be a little overwhelming. But I think, as you said, our plant forward needs to be the majority of our plate. And so, what would your suggestion be for people to get more plants on their plate?
Sure. That's a great question, Heather. One thing I will say is to maybe save meat for supper time. I am not going to ever like preach that you shouldn't eat meat or, or stay away from this or whatever. That's not really my approach on things. I feel like when, we sit down to dinner and the turkey's in the center and it's giant and like everything else is just sort of over here, I feel like we should just kind of flip the take on that. The salad bowl should be the centerpiece and the rest just kind of be the accessory. So I've had great success with a handful of people who have wanted to become not necessarily vegan or vegetarian or whatever the latest, terminology is, but have just wanted to become more plant focused. And they've had great success focusing on plant-based eating until supper. They don't
Perfect.
feel, deprived. They don't feel like they're missing out on anything. And again, with, being thinking vegan, vegetarian along those lines, you do then have to become a little bit more strategic to getting in certain sources of B vitamins, protein, that sort of thing. So when you start, kind of pulling foods out of the diet, you do almost have to approach then the rest of the diet and what you are consuming with a little bit more strategy and forethought. So I have had success with that approach. Just meats off the table until supper time. What's left to eat? Like you've kind of got to eat plants then because what the heck else are you going to eat?
Yeah.
So, and that can be, it does, and everybody thinks plants and they think, oh my God, I have to eat like lettuce. And like, no, you don't. Like you do, but you don't. There are,
Yeah.
an array of other things like oatmeal, for goodness sake, it's grown in the ground. Like it's a wonderful breakfast food. It's inexpensive, it's filling, and it's fast. Like there are, it's a big world. It really is. There are a lot more options than when we think vegan, we think gross green things. And
Sure.
and that's not necessarily the way it has to be. And I guess that's maybe something I'm trying to share as well. yes, I do jar salad, but there's a lot of other stuff going on there too.
And they're delicious.
I think
So, in saying that and sharing that, how again can people purchase your Fit Food?
so. Everything again is on my website. Right up in the top little corner, right corner, there is a shop tab if you go to my main page, which is fitwithbrit.ca. And then what I do, I update my menu every week. So it will be updated on Monday with the new offerings for the week ahead. You would then have until Wednesday, end of the day, to place your order for me to deliver or arrange for pickup or just whatever works best for Friday. And if there's going to be any change to that schedule, I do try and widely post and let everybody know that there could be a shift from time to time, not often, but the odd time. If just my schedule changes a little bit, I certainly we can always make things work. With that though, if people are looking to order and do have dietary restrictions, that's a very common thing. Or
Yeah.
maybe they just like hate olives and Greek salad is on the menu, or are gluten free or have a question about a certain ingredient. I encourage people to reach out to me, and I do my best to get back to everyone. And again, all my contact info is on my website as well, along with social media. So if you were interested in placing an order but did certainly have a few questions, please by all means reach out to me. I completely understand.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been very informative, and thank you for sharing your tips. And again, to find Britt, fitwithbrit.ca, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you, Britt. And that has been awesome.
Thank you so much for the invite, Heather. I greatly appreciate it. And this was super fun to share.
It was. So we'll have to do this again and maybe hone in on a very specific topic.
Sure. Yeah. Touch
All
base
right.
anytime, Heather. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.